In 2023, a Benedictine monastery in Provence made a decision most Catholics never even knew was possible. They accepted ordinations from a bishop outside their own diocese, simply to survive. This wasn't rebellion for its own sake. Dom Alcuin Reid, the monastery's founding prior, called it a fight against what he named sacramental euthanasia. And what happened at Monastère Saint-Benoît says a lot about where the traditional Latin Mass stands right now. Let's go back to where this started. In 2021, Pope Francis issued Traditionis Custodes, a document restricting the traditional Latin Mass across the Catholic world. For most parishes, that meant fewer TLM times, or losing them entirely. But for a monastery, the stakes are different. A monastery lives and dies by its ordinations. Priests, deacons, even the older minor orders, like acolyte and subdeacon. Monastère Saint-Benoît was founded in Provence at the invitation of Bishop Dominique Rey of Fréjus-Toulon. But Bishop Rey himself came under what Reid called ongoing persecution from church authorities. Combine that with Traditionis Custodes, and the monastery suddenly had no clear path to ordain its own monks in the traditional rite. So what happens to a monastery that can't ordain new priests? It starts to bleed out, slowly. Reid put it bluntly, we would be a monastery that was fatally hemorrhaging. Think about that phrase for a second. Hemorrhaging, not struggling, dying. Without new ordinations, there's no one to offer daily Mass, no one to carry the community forward. And for a monastery whose entire life centers on the divine office and the conventual Mass, that's not a bureaucratic inconvenience. It's an existential threat. So why didn't the monastery just wait it out, hoping Rome would change course? Because waiting had a cost too. Every year without ordinations was a year closer to collapse. After prayer and consultation, the community made its choice. They received ordinations from another Catholic bishop outside the normal channel. Reid admitted this carried real canonical consequences, but he framed it as the lesser risk, better than watching the monastery's sacramental life die involuntarily. Here's the point Reid kept coming back to. This was never about defiance for its own sake. It was about a founding prior watching Vatican policy threaten to extinguish a monastery that was, by every account, thriving. Young monks restored Gregorian chant, historic Holy Week rites. He didn't mince words about the 2021 restrictions either, calling them one of the last desperate and embarrassing salvos of a particular generation within the Church. And he pointed back to Pope Benedict XVI, who once said that what earlier generations held sacred remains sacred and great for us too. That's the tension still sitting unresolved under Pope Leo XIV today. A Pope Reid says he prays for daily, still waiting to see if this open wound gets addressed. A monastery that measures its life in ordinations, and its survival in Masses said, that's a story about what tradition actually costs to keep alive. Do you think Pope Leo XIV will ever lift the restrictions from Traditionis Custodes? Tell me in the comments. And if this kind of story matters to you, subscribe so you don't miss the next one.